Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 18th school committee meeting, our regular meeting on the bi-weekly basis. Before we open our agenda for this evening, I do want to take the opportunity to officially welcome Sarah Ladani to the school committee. She had tried last time, we had some technical difficulties, so Sarah is able to join us tonight. We do want to welcome you to the school committee, Sarah.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Everyone's been so kind and the experience has been so positive, running and then being elected. So thank you very much, and I look forward to the next couple of years working with everyone.
Thank you very much. So first on our agenda this evening is, as always, our open public comment. Coming in for the community inbox, I did get confirmation today that there had been no submissions since our last meeting until noontime today. So we have no open comments to share with anyone. Again, we encourage everyone right now, because we can't have open meetings in person. If you do have things that you would like to get in front of the school committee, please use the community inbox to make those submissions, and we'll be happy to look at those things. Okay? So thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have the minutes from our May 4th meeting, which was our last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes, and are there any questions or changes that anyone would like to make?
I have none.
Okay. So, and I cannot tell whether Brent is with us or not. So I'm going to assume that he is not with the, wait, on that screen, please. Sorry. No, it looks like Brent is not with us. So, and maybe we then have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Sarah, thank you. A second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. So on the table is the approval of the minutes from our May 4th regular school committee meeting. Because actually, just clarification, because Brent is not participating virtually, do we have to do a roll call vote? I think we can just do a simple hands, right?
I think
in this case. So all in favor of the approval of minutes? The minutes are approved 4-0-0. Thank you. Next up is our teaching and learning highlights. So Dr. Burtis.
I always love introducing our teaching and learning highlights when we have our students here with us. So our teaching and learning highlight this evening is a whole school service learning project that has been taking place at the Borough Elementary School. So we have Ms. Michelle McCarthy, the principal at the Borough. She is up there. And along with her, we have 4 fabulous students. We have Grace Hutchinson, we have Jake Saltmarsh, Olivia Fiscaldo, and we have Dexter Griffin. And I'm so glad Dexter was able, looks like he's right from the field being able to join us, and all different places. So thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we are so excited to hear about this service learning project. So I will turn it over to Ms. McCarthy.
Thank you, Dr. Burdos. Yes, we are excited to have some 4th graders here tonight that hopefully they will be able to answer some questions for you later. But first, to just give you an overview, every year at the Borough School, each grade level, preschool through grade 4, participates in a community service project. And typically those are not connected. So for example, 1st grade has always done a cookie bake for the discretionary. 2nd grade has done things like Valentine's for vets. We've done for animal shelters, all sorts of different things. But this year when we got back, it was April, and we decided that it was actually our school council, and even more so, and I was sort of hoping she was going to be on too, Pat Loomer, who is our community representative on our school council, was the one who was sort of the brainchild of this. And that was doing some spring goodie bags for our senior citizens. And so we turned it into a whole school project. And I'm hoping we can show a video of the kids at work, and I can point out some of the different things that we did. So I'm hoping I can talk while this is on, and maybe we can make a large. No. So the first was sun catchers, and our preschool school students did. And then our kindergarten students started way back in April, planting some vegetables and herbs and taking care of those. And then our first graders designed some happy spring cards that would go in the bag. And then our second graders got some little terracotta pots that they decorated. And then our third graders, who are, as part of the programming, are learning how to type. So starting typing skills in third grade. So they researched some recipes and typed up the recipe cards in the bag. And then our fourth graders who are here tonight, we had some canvas bags, blank canvas bags, and they decorated them with spring designs. And then finally, our school council members, which is comprised of teachers and parents, and our community rep, Pat Loomer, included some vegetable seeds and flower seeds with all the things that the children had designed and put them into those bags designed by the fourth grade. And we delivered them to the senior center that very day. And we delivered 50 of them, and I will tell you, I went back the next day because I had to get the crates because we needed them for moving, and all but 4 were gone. So they did a grab and go at the senior center, and I was told that they really enjoyed them. So I'm sure our fourth graders would love to answer any questions that you have.
That's great. Anybody?
Well, I'll ask a question to start with. Could any of you tell me a little bit about what you learned as you were putting these things together and donating them to someone, it's like strangers you didn't really know, but they're in your community, but putting together some creative things for other people's benefit?
You got to call on someone, Mr. Pearson.
Oh, and I don't know all their names. I see someone in,
We have
Grace and Olivia.
And Grace has a hand.
I can't read it, so can you call a name for me? Because I can't read the names, I'm sorry.
Olivia.
So Olivia.
Olivia.
Hi. What I learned from making these bags was, even though you don't know this person, they could help right now. Like there could be down times and they probably need that smile to cheer them up.
Grace, do you want to add to that?
What I learned while making these bags was that even though you don't know who you're giving it to, it still makes you feel good that you're doing something good for the senior citizens.
Thank you. Michelle, any questions, or Sarah?
No, thank you so much for all your effort. What a wonderful project.
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm wondering what you thought the best part of this project was. Is there, I know you guys did the bags, but was it something that the other grades did that maybe you were like, ooh, I wish I was doing that? Grace,
I
you
don't
want
know,
to go?
Jake or Dexter, do you want to answer this one, or?
I'll take this one. I do not think there was anything better than this other than maybe growing the herbs and flowers at kindergarten. So
Yeah, little science.
I had a
there.
lot of fun making them.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. What about Dexter? Or was that Dexter?
That was Dexter.
So what was the other? Jake is off my screen. There we go. Jake, what about you?
I liked doing the bags better than the other things I could have done. I liked the bags better.
Did you do the bag all
Jake,
by
what did
yourself?
you put on your bag? Jake, what was on your design for your bag?
On my bag, I wrote "Spring is here" with some grasshoppers and ladybugs on it.
That's pretty cool. You know, you could be walking down the street in a few years when you're up in middle school and see someone carrying that bag, and you'll say, hey, I remember when I made that when I was in 4th grade. Because they're recyclable, right? People will use them. They're reusable bags. They'll use them over and over again. Nice job.
That was actually going to be my question. Has anybody seen one of their bags around town yet? Because that's just kind of a cool thing, right? Which is you see some person that you don't know that you made a gift for, and they're carrying it around town, and you know that you brightened their day when they got it. Plus, hopefully when they're carrying it around with them, running their errands or whatever. So I assume nobody's seen anything yet, or seen any of the flower pots or the sun catchers or anything yet, right? Are they on? Michelle, are any of them on display at the senior center still?
No, I think they definitely grabbed and went. Like they opened it up for a grab and go, and they took them. And I did see something posted on Foxborough Discussion, a little shout out for everyone here at Burrell, because they did really enjoy them. There was some good stuff in there, some goodies.
Well, thank you. Anybody else?
I was just going to say, do they have any ideas if they were going to do this next year, maybe how they can improve on it or do something different for next year when they're in 5th grade?
Grace, you want to answer that?
What I think we could do better is we could grab like maybe one person from each grade, and then we could work on like one thing as like a whole group instead of doing it just grade by grade.
Right.
Oh,
That's a good idea.
yeah.
Olivia?
Leah, do you have another idea?
Maybe like we make like probably around the same time, like make a big poster that says Happy Spring and have all their names on it.
That's a good idea.
Looks like Dexter has something to add too.
So one thing that you could do, which is basically elaborating off of Grace's idea about the one person from each grade thing, you could do that with a choice of whether you wanted to do raising an herb or doing a tote bag or stuff like that. But overall, I like the idea.
Great.
I'll
Good job.
take those all under consideration for next year. So.
And you have volunteers now to come back and help you run it,
There
it
you
sounds
go.
like.
Right.
Exactly, right.
Which is always key. When you have something, make sure you have people that can run it. So, hey, I'm sorry, Dr. Bordas, did you have something?
I just wanted to comment as far as, I think it's so exciting when you think about everybody had their hand in this. From kindergarten all the way to 4th grade, and to see the finished product, whether it was the painted terracotta pots or the bags themselves or any of the pieces that went in there. It's just a great product in the end to really show the teamwork of the Burrell School as a whole.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing a little bit of cheer welcoming spring in our community. It's something that we all need to celebrate. We've had beautiful weather, and I'm sure that, you guys have brightened somebody's day with the stuff that the school made, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us tonight.
Great job, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Come back anytime.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
Come
you.
back anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I kept forgetting to take my mask off, so I apologize. If it's muffled, I apologize. Anyway, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the superintendent update.
So it's probably not a surprise that my update really has to do with the announcement that came out yesterday from the governor. That was one that was unexpected from all of us. As superintendents and school administrators, we didn't have any idea that this was coming forward when we heard this yesterday. So we are excited about hearing that news for sure. But at the same time, I can share that I had a few emails today from parents. Why didn't we have masks off at recess for elementary today? I think it's important to remind everyone that we have to think about the local level as well and all of the guidelines when they come down from the Department of Education or from the governor and what that looks like within our setting. So we've been working in partnership with the Board of Health all year long to be able to keep our students and our faculty and staff safe. I met with a local Board of Health today. They had a call after this afternoon with DPH along with our other health officials, and we have a call with the Commissioner from Education tomorrow. So we're looking forward to having clarity on any of those guidelines and updates. The last thing we want to do is to implement something that we hear at the state level and not take into account what's happening at the local level. We've done that all year and worked really hard to make sure that there's clarity and there's consistency within all of our 5 schools for this. So parents can expect a communication that will go out tomorrow after we've had that call with the Commissioner from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Masks are still required in classrooms. It's really, we're looking forward to being able to lose those outside when it comes to recess. But we also have questions. What are the implications for other things with those guidelines when we think of any of our end of year activities? Promotion, kind of move up, graduation, certainly with these changes. What does that mean for graduation? And we can't go forward not recognizing the amount of work that has taken place from a planning standpoint. Every time we feel like we catch our breath, then new updates or guidelines come and we need to pivot. Oh. And when it comes and we have no idea that it's coming out, again, we want to be really thoughtful as we have all school year and make sure that we are clear in our communication and that we are providing everyone with a consistent message. And so we will certainly do that tomorrow after we've had that call and meet again with our public health officials. But it is really exciting. We're in our 13th week being in the yellow in Foxborough currently. I mean, it's a 1.77% positivity rate, and even there's only 16 active cases in the entire town of Foxborough. So that's great news. We're so excited to see a piece of normalcy coming back. And the other update has, again, to do with that, and that is with masks with student athletes. And that changed as of today from the MIIA adopting the EEA guidelines to where athletes outside are not required to wear masks. So we're seeing lots of changes. Again, that was communicated with coaches where that's outside of the school day, but during the school day, we'll communicate that to families tomorrow. We also know that with the May 29th date that was announced by the governor when it's going to be reopening and rescinding all of the things that we have in place now, if you will, that we also have to make sure that our local Board of Health and any changes that are coming there, in case, like, for instance, if they were to choose to adopt their own policy at the local level. And that's one of the things we talked about today. So they're working on that to see what that means. Even when we think about in this room itself at school committee, in these meetings, we're wearing our mask unless we're speaking, even though we are 6 feet apart. So again, we want to have clear, consistent messaging that's going out and to make sure that, again, safety is our number one priority. But we are so excited, looking to a more normal end of the school year the best we can, because we know what that will do for the fall for us.
Thank you. Any questions on the changes?
I just want to thank you. I just want to thank you, Amy. We've worked in conjunction for years, but you're very well thought out. You really do have the best interests of the students at heart, and I really have a lot of faith in the way you're proceeding and everything that you've done through COVID. So I just wanted to say thank you so much.
I appreciate that, but I really can't underscore all of the planning from everyone. It really has been so much planning constantly, and everyone's willing to jump in, both feet, and to do whatever we need to do. And that's what makes Foxborough such a great place to be. And that's been said by our newest members to Foxborough, from whether they're new administrators or our new staff as well, to be in a place with all that we've dealt with this year and to have the support and the work that's been taking place. So thank you, Sarah, for that. But there's a lot that goes behind the scenes.
For sure.
Michelle?
So one question, and that just sort of hit me, is that, we're hearing all about, okay, masks are still going to be required in school, through the end of the school year at the very least. Do we have any idea about what's going to happen over summer school? Have they had any indication on that?
I think that we should be getting a lot more information tomorrow on the commissioner's call. We've reached out as superintendents and asked the implications for those things that are immediate now, as well as the summer itself. Some things are really clear, but we also know that there's the May 29th date as well as the June 15th date, and our extended school year programs start in the beginning of July.
Right.
So as long as we continue with the trajectory that we have, I think it's really great news to be able to see things moving in the right direction.
Just probably more just a wait and see, and who knows?
And be ready to make those changes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay, great.
So much of it too, it's so, just as kind of an example, it's so complicated when we think about so many of our senior activities, whether it's scholarship night or graduation. When we have something that's outside the school day, so now we know students can sit 3 feet from each other in a classroom with a mask, but once the event then takes place outside of the school day, even though it's the same students that they're with during the day, it then goes to the event guidance, which changes. So when you look at capacity for events versus what we have for schools, so which do you follow? So again, that's why it's been so important and working so closely with the town, and with one of our senior events contacting the commissioner to say, this doesn't seem to make sense. It's the same students together during the school day. There's no outsiders. The people that are chaperones, if you will, are our own staff. So why does the guideline have to change in that case? Because we want to be able to have the class together.
Right.
So following all of those guidelines, whether it's event, whether it's in school, it gets tricky, and sometimes they kind of don't align with each other very well.
Very well said, thank you.
Any other updates?
That is it for this evening.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We are flying through our agenda. I'm sorry. We need like the Velcro, I think. That would be very useful for me. Because then it gets caught in the glasses, and that's not pretty. So anyway, next on the agenda is a continuation of the discussion that we started at the May 4th meeting, which was around the Municipal Modernization Act and our warrant signing procedure. On the table is, do we want to adopt a different policy than the one we had been following pre-COVID, where we had, for this period, we had moved to a 1 signature required because of the special circumstances. At some point in the very near future, it appears that we will be asked to move back to our old process, which is currently requiring 3 signatures to approve any warrants. Still 1 signature for payroll, plus the superintendent's signature, but three signatures for all the other warrants that need to be signed on a weekly basis. And on the table is taking advantage of the Municipal Modernization Act, which requires a designated, we appoint a signee who is able to go and sign the warrants every week, and then as part of our school committee meeting or our school committee packet, we would need to include information around what was approved through the warrant signature process. So continuing that discussion, Mr. Yukna, Dr. Brodos, I don't know if you guys want to add anything to what I just said before we open the discussion.
I think it maybe go to Bill because he's done a little bit of follow-up to some of your questions before.
Yeah, so what I just passed out to all of you is basically a 45-day summary of all the warrants that we did on the school side, and the under the amount column, that's how many items met that criteria. So on the first line, there's 2 invoices for the total of the 7,326. On the last line, on the first page, 34,000 is 22 invoices, and one of them is greater than 10K but less than 25. So I gave you kind of an analysis of under 10,000, 10,000 to 25, 25 to 50, and then 50 and greater. And what you'll see is that, you know, the majority of our invoices are going to be individually are going to be under $10,000. However, we have recurring items that throughout the year that can be much larger. Things like our sped tuitions that we pay either monthly, quarterly, or semi-annually can be extremely high. Some can be, close to $50,000 to $70,000. Our transportation for out of district on a monthly basis runs anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000. The Borough project is a good example of something that doesn't happen on a regular basis, but obviously we're in that project. And as you can see on May 12th, one of the, even though the total amount of 746 is the warrant, there's only 7 items, and the majority of it is a $689,000 payment to the contractor for the Borough project. So my opinion here is that under the way the Modernization Act is written, it doesn't give specifics. It does not require that there's a specific form, a specific sign-off. It just says that you appoint one individual, the same individual every week, and that the individual reports back to the main committee on information of what the warrants are. And I think, again, where it just says reports back, the simplest way you could do this is effectively something similar to this that would be in your packet that, for the next meeting. So you might have, obviously if we meet every other week, you'd have 2 weeks worth of warrants that were there. So we'd list the warrants, the amounts in total, how they broke down, and then depending on what item level you say, so if it was, above $25,000 as an example, any item above $25,000, we would break down and effectively say to you that it was paid to CTA Construction for the Borough project for X amount of dollars. It was paid to Vanpool for out-of-district transportation for X amount of dollars. And that way you would have an accounting of any large, unusual items, and you'd also have an idea. Now, you don't have to have it as a meeting agenda item. It would be under other information, and if somebody did have a question on it within their package, you could then ask it at the committee meeting and say, well, can you explain to me what this is? And we could then discuss it because it would be under other matters and it would have already been in your packet. It is going to be public information, as your packet is. But again, I see no issue with that because it is our operating process anyway, so.
Right.
Questions?
You. So and just to confirm, so the process is it's one signature. In the event that is not able to happen, the fallback is a 3-person signature process. So that is still open and available if the person that was appointed is not able to, for whatever reason, they're away, whatever, they can't come in that, in that specific period and sign. We do have a fallback, which is requiring 3 signatures for approval. That's the correct understanding, right?
That's correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the confirmation. Cool. So any questions, thoughts? I know, Michelle, you had some stuff.
Well,
one question I have is, so it says, may designate any one of its members to approve all the bills. And the question I have with that is, how often do we designate that person? Can we designate that like on a monthly basis? So we kind of rotate who that person is? So it's not always the same person, or?
Yeah, I mean,
Kinda
it
do it
does,
that
yeah,
way?
again, as you can read in the law, there's nothing that says that it has to be for
Right,
the
yeah.
year, it has to be for whatever period of time. I think their assumption was, in most cases, that you would appoint somebody for a period of, a longer period of time. Not
Like for the year.
Yeah, not for a week or whatever, so, but, again, you could go 6 months and say, we're gonna switch every 6 months, or we're gonna, do whatever, so.
Or if a circumstance changes, or.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out is if we're going to do this, what time frame makes sense for the people that are on the board to do that, to designate a person to be the one to be signing on a weekly basis.
Well, obviously, I would say it'd be a minimum of annually, because that way, at school committee changeover, you would, like when you're doing your reorganization, you would potentially just say, okay, the person's gonna be this, so that would be the minimum, in my
Right.
mind.
And go ahead, Richard, sorry.
Thank you. So I think our question for us is as a board, there's 5 of us, and these are the 5. So the question I think really remains is, of the 5 of us, who has flexibility or who can commit? And what I was referring to at last meeting was that challenge of the search for committal. This grand search to what's going to happen today. So I think the question might be right at our fingertips, in our own minds and where we sit. I can assure you, from my standpoint, I do not wish to be the sole signer myself, only because the erraticness of my schedule that can change on a dime. So that's my greatest challenge. But there's many times I can pull things off. So, coming in the clutch is kind of what I would prefer to be. I'd rather pinch it, with all candor. But I don't know what everyone else is. If everyone else has some schedules that are a little trickier, I wish Brent was here, because he spoke a little bit last meeting about it.
Right.
Although I know he's a high school teacher and he has to travel from high school to get back here by 5. So I think the question for us is, do we have a guaranteed 3? I'm nervous that we might not. I don't know what everyone's schedules are, but if we don't have a guaranteed 3, then the Modernization Act might be a saving grace for us.
Yeah.
Right. Go ahead, Michelle.
I would just say that's where my concern is on the guaranteed 3 is, if you're asking me right now, my schedule when the courts aren't open, the way it is right now, if I'm working via Zoom a lot, I could commit, but my schedule I'm anticipating is going to get a lot more complicated over the next coming months. And so that makes my ability to commit a little bit more difficult. I do live right down the street, so I can come if needed. So it's kind of, to be able to commit for a 6-month period or a year period to being the one, that would be hard. To saying like, hey, over the next month, I could look at the schedule and say, yeah, I can do that.
Right.
So I could commit to being a 1 for a short period of time, but for a long period of time, I couldn't do that.
Right.
So that's what I'm kind of looking at, of between the 1 and being one of a 3 as
Right.
well.
Right. Thank you. Sarah? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I got you. I
It's okay.
apologize.
No, I'm new, so forgive me. But I have done a lot of reflecting and reading on this. And Brent's words that we ended the last meeting, which I did hear, by the way, they sort of stuck with me. And he made a very good point. And it's important for me to just communicate that we are responsible for over half of not over half, but almost half of the town budget, which is significant. Also, Michelle used the word we, Rich, you used the word us. But we and us, as we know, I'm brand new. We and us is a revolving panel of people. So where right now we all may be like-minded, we all may be working well together and everything's great, we don't know who's going to be sitting in these chairs going forward. So I feel that it just makes me nervous to make any kind of big changes with such a significant responsibility, signing these warrants. So I would be remiss if I did not put that out there and say that, because I thought it was significant that Brent said that before.
Right.
That being said, I'm always available. I'm always in Foxborough, and I can always be here. So I can always be the one of the three. You know, that's can be my job, you know what I mean? But again, it may not always be the same people that are sitting here, and it's just, these amounts are,
Right, so
they're significant.
So I think, Sarah, that's less of an issue because, to your point, it's always going to be revolving a table of 5 that, someone could always be moved off any year. So as elected officials, you all have to be comfortable almost from day one with what the process is and what you're doing, and you're doing it based on the fact that the taxpayers put you in the position to do this. So you all have that adult responsibility, if you will, when you're coming in. Also, you have to feel, I hope, comfortable that it never gets to a warrant article unless it's gone through our side of it and our sign-offs. Every single expense item on my side is signed off by me in the end. So even though everybody else has signed off to it before it gets to me, it's got to be signed off by me as well, or your business manager, whoever that is at the time. In payroll cases, always is signed off by your superintendent as well. So I think you should feel comfortable with that. I think the fact that you're always a rotating board, that's the fact of life, just like the Board of Selectmen and everybody else. You don't have to worry about that as being a critical issue. And at any point in time, you can walk away from the Modernization Act and just fall back to the 3. So you're not locking yourself into anything. You're just saying at this point in time, based on the schedules of the 5, it doesn't work. Maybe at some point in time in the future, based on the schedules of the 5, there's always going to be 3 available, and it's not a big deal. There's 3 people like you that are always in town, and so no big deal. So that's the difference. So I would say that I would not concern myself with the selection or the option that you're taking, because it's not permanent.
Sure.
But it is based on who you have as 5 members and what
Can
they're
I
available.
ask one other question? Is there a threshold for the 3 signatures required, like an amount threshold? There's always 3 signatures, even if it's $50, the warrant.
If it's $10.
Gotcha, Okay.
Michelle?
So I think I took Brent's comment as actually looking at it as, if we went to the Modernization Act, then all of this information, because then we would have something like this, then it would become all 5 of us are looking at it, rather than just the 3 who are signing it. So it actually becomes a little bit more aware of it. And if there were questions, then we would bring it kind of almost more to the front in a way. So that's how I viewed what he was saying.
Right, and I'm sorry.
So go ahead.
No, I actually think that is a benefit to doing this. It does bring another level of transparency, because it becomes a part of the school committee packet. Therefore, it's available. All of the warrants are always available. If you choose to go in after something's been signed, you can actually go in and request to see any of the warrants as a school committee member. I mean, that's available to you. But my thinking all along has been, this report does make it something that becomes just another level closer to something that is available to everyone. And I actually like that. I think the critical piece, though, going back to Mr. Yukna's comment and Mr. Pearson's comment, is right now, in the current situation, you have flexibility, I have flexibility. We don't have 3 other members who could commit on a regular basis to come in and sign. So this gives us an option.
Okay.
That otherwise it's going to be a scramble every week, and we don't want to be holding up our payment to our vendors. We certainly don't want to be holding up payroll. We can certainly accommodate that because that's one signature, and either you or I could do that very easily. But Michelle is saying right now she could probably plan for that in the short term, in short periods of time, but we do not, Brent is driving to Newton every day. Richard's schedule is very unpredictable. I don't know if we have another option for this particular committee as it's seated. not to pursue this, and it would just be very unpredictable. And we
Okay.
don't want to delay payment to people that we owe money to.
Sure. I just felt like it was important to say it. It's something that's been running around my head. But you're making really great points, and I do like the idea that the report will be part of our packet, which, like you said, adds a level of transparency, so. Can we vote without Brent?
Yeah.
We can vote because we do have a majority. We can vote. There are two things. Do we have to vote on what the summary report looks like, or are we just voting on the Modernization Act? Do you know?
I think you're voting on the, deciding to go to the Modernization Act. The only thing I would probably add into that vote is at what level you want additional detail on the packet that goes into the school committee. So I think I'd probably just say on the thing that, that you're voting to select, to move forward with the Modernization Act for a single voter, a single signer, and number one. And then I would probably do another one saying that we, our intent is that any item over 25,000
Right.
would have additional detail as part of the informational pack.
And
Or
both
over 50,000, or whatever you decide.
whatever we decide. So, and again, both of those things can be revisited at any point if we feel like the process isn't working, or there's a way to make it more effective.
Yeah, and understand with our budget of about $36 million, about 15% of it is expenses, the rest of it's payroll. So pretty much the whole committee hopefully is comfortable with the payroll budget because of the backing that we have on that, which is all based on individuals, their salary levels and so on. So signing off on the payroll, if you're really looking at something, you might be looking at overtime, you might be looking, just to, on things like that, but you're not looking at the general payroll per se because, John Smith's on each payroll every single week for the same amount of money because that's what he makes, type of thing. So I think if you do the vote to take the Modernization Act, you do the vote to pick the level that you want the detail on, and then your third vote's going to be who is the person you're selecting.
Right. Richard?
Yeah, so my only by the way, I appreciated this summary that you submitted today, right? So I want to make sure I understand what your second, about the level of detail. You're talking about greater detail at a certain number?
Yeah,
Because I thought this report is excellent.
Well-
And I also don't want to hamstring ourselves to actually, we actually wind up voting a specific and criteria report, because I don't think the Modernization Act says we have to do that, although I think I see your wisdom in it.
No, I'm saying, so like, let's say that we were doing the 514 down to, let's say, 5.5. So you would get this report the way it looks right now with about a dozen items, showing how many fall under the 10,000, how many fall in each of these categories. If you said, the only thing we're really concerned about is over $25,000, then any item over the 25, I would give you a further breakdown.
Great, thank you.
And that's how simple that report would be.
I just wanted to
But
make
you
sure I
have to pick
understood that.
You have to tell me, is it 10, 20,
Exactly.
what's the number?
Good, that's good. Yeah, I like the report as it is, but then this would be a little more detail for
Yeah.
specific.
So you would look, as an example, you would look under the Borough Project. And again, I just gave you a quick thing, just saying Borough Project 689. But I would basically, at that point, I would say that, who the vendor was that we were paying, CTA Construction, for the Borough Project in this amount of money.
Got it.
So and if there was 3 items, let's say there had been 3 on that, you'd get 1, 2, 3
3, yep.
with all that information. And that's what you'd be having in your packet.
Is 25 a reasonable number in your
I think
estimation of what you do?
I think when you look at this, again, this is 45 days. I think greater than 25,000, so 25,000 or greater, I think is reasonable. It's not going to be that many items in each one of that we are actually individually pulling out. Remember, so again, the point I was getting to with the, roughly, let's say $38 million, you've got basically about $8 million in expenses. So that's why it's never, yes, we have some very large ones when it comes to tuitions or to busing and things of that nature. But the majority of our things are buying paper, buying, books. If we did a whole book series, you might see a $50,000 purchase for a book series. But again, that would have been something you had approved, so it would make sense to you. You would have seen, okay, that's the books that we just said, yes, we're going to do. That type of thing. Everything has a time lag, so they'll buy the books now, but you won't see that invoice until the fall. you know, that type of thing. But at least it'd be something you would recognize and understand.
Michelle?
And so the actual act says the member who is doing the signing, when they come back, so basically if you're signing on Friday and the meeting is the next Tuesday, then you're supposed to be reporting back. So you'd have this report, and if there was anything that was unusual or something different or whatever, then the expectation is that that member would be reporting to the other members anything that was questionable. So even if it's not kind of on the list, if there was something that, hey, I just wanted to point out that this was what was going on, this is what was signed, I had this question and such was answered, then that was what would be on the record.
Exactly.
Because that's part of what is very specific, that's in the language of the act. So.
But the thing I found interesting is it says you're reporting back. It doesn't say
How?
you're having a discussion. It says you're giving, so to me, it says you're giving information to the other 4 members.
Actually, that's my question, Mr. Yukna, is would it be the way that Michelle just presented it, or would it be more that it's in your packet, and if you have a question, you would ask the
Right.
question, rather than every time this person having to report out?
Yeah,
Report doesn't need to be oral.
no,
Right.
right.
Correct.
Right.
I would agree.
So I think again, making it a little easier for whoever's going to do it, is what I would suggest that's done is that when they coming in to sign the warrants, effectively the summary sheet would already be there. They might just initial that sheet so that way, you know, it's not like we did something different after they walked out of the building type of thing. This is the sheet that they're signed based on, and that's what's going to be in the package. So you might actually, if we do it under that theory and you don't meet for 3 weeks, you'd have 3 of these sheets in your packet as informational for the 3 different weeks of warrants, because they'd each been individually signed when the person signed off on the other one. I think that would make some sense.
And if that member was unable for some reason to attend the meeting, then they've been able to report by initializing that report.
Correct. Yes, in fact. Right.
It still would be just under the informational matters piece within the packet. If I just kind of quickly looked at the sample here from these, what did you say, 45 days worth here, if you had 25,000, 25% of those would fall into that. To kind of give you an idea of like how many, and then, I mean, granted, that's based on this sample that's here. So when you're thinking about what do you want that threshold to be, if it's 25,000 or greater than 25,000, that would represent about 25% of what's here.
Mr. Chairman, if you're willing.
14 out of the 55
Right.
things are over 25,000. Am I thinking about that correctly?
14, where are you getting 55? There's hundreds, 110.
I think
Just
she
out of the
was in
dates.
list.
The dates.
The dates.
She's just looking.
Just looking at the dates. Just trying to get like how big, when you think about that sample size, 25,000, or to your point, do you go 50,000 or do you go higher?
I'd be willing to try to make a motion that actually includes both, but I know we were going to go 1-2, but I think we could probably do it in one motion, if you wish me to try. I would like to motion that the school committee accepts the Municipal Modernization Act as detailed, with a threshold of 25,000 or greater for detail in the record as submitted.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? We move to second. Second, okay. Can we call this to a vote, please? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Show of hands. So we have adopted the Municipal Modernization Act with the threshold of $25,000 or greater. Those line items will be called out on a written report. So thank you very much. Do we need to say when this is effective?
It's effective.
I think
So
we-
now that we voted
Yeah.
into it. So starting this week, we
I
will.
was going there too, but I was trying to, but before I went there, I was like, do I say today? Do I say this school year? What do I do? Let's just go and let's see what happens.
So then we need to appoint somebody.
Right.
Yep.
So next on the table is someone to, it sounds like it's either you or me to be
I'm
that
fine
person.
with doing it. I know you have a lot of responsibilities as chair, so I'll do whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion for this?
Why not?
So I'm certainly happy to do it. I will tell you, any questions you have. The people have always been very forthcoming with information. Everybody's right there. So, even when you're looking at them for the first time, there's a sample warrant included here. So, all that information is available and anybody's there to ask any questions. So, so can we have a motion then to actually nominate Sarah Ladani as the representative to sign the warrants and then to represent and to approve that and then present it back or be responsible for reporting it back to the school committee?
How much of what time frame do we want to do it?
Is it between Friday and Monday?
No, I think you're trying to ask the length of time.
Oh.
Right, length of time.
Sorry.
So do we want to try it for like 2 months and then at least, check back in and see if, for a time frame?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say maybe a few more. You want to do it for 6 months and have Sarah report, kind of Sarah, the person appointed could report back?
If it sounds like if I'm on vacation or if something happens, you're going to revert back to the 3.
We have to.
And then we're meeting every other week anyway. If there's any problems or hiccups, I'll share it
Right.
with the report.
Or we could just appoint someone else as well.
If it's going to
Exactly.
be an extended period of time, we can
Yeah.
always just change
Like if
that
you're going on
process.
vacation for an extended period of time, we can appoint somebody else.
Are you taking the grand
I
tour
hope
of Europe
so.
this summer? Is that what it is?
No, but I like that, Michelle, too. It gives us a little bit of a check mark to say, okay, it's 6 months, we're going to go for it and, see how comfortable we are, see how it works. So I like your idea, as opposed to just kind of a forever.
And you're allowed to call mercy.
Yes, yeah, of course, of course.
This isn't a punishment.
And to
Because
answer-
you're new, we're going to be like, all right, we'll give it to her.
I know.
To answer your question, it's typically Friday after 2 o'clock and then before Monday end of the day.
Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
can come really anytime.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, if you can't come in until Tuesday morning, Janet's very nice. And I
Janet's
always come in on Thursday mornings.
Janet's the best. No, I'll probably come Fridays, but, Janet's the best.
Okay.
So.
So again, may we have a motion for Sarah Ladani to be the approver of the warrants for 6 months, a 6-month period starting today, which would run through the middle of November, then if I'm doing math correctly.
So moved.
Calendar math.
So moved.
Thank you.
Got
Thank
it
you.
before.
You got it.
Seconded.
For the second, all in favor, please? 400. Thank you. Congratulations, and thank you
Thank
for doing that.
And I was not doing the math correctly. It's way less than 25%. Way less than 25%.
I wasn't gonna give Bill's eye rolls
Never-
any
never
type of
question us.
credence, I promise you.
No, I looked at it, you know what I was doing, but just for the record,
Yep.
way less than 25%.
So, thank you very much
you,
for the
Sarah.
discussion. I think it's again, the situation we're in, I think it's the most appropriate response. And I do also think that it is something that we'll see, it will be very effective for us, so thank you. Next on the agenda is the MIIA, not the MIAA, sorry, MIIA, the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association Rewards Program. And Mr. Yukna, would you like to give some background on this? I know we discussed it before Tina ended her term on the board. She had been doing much of this for us, but there's a program that if we take education courses, then we get credits back on our insurance.
So basically, under the rewards program, we're in effect a self-insured town with a group of other towns. We are all members and we own the insurance company, if you will, okay? So as part of that program, what they do is they've put together reward credit points to any town that basically does and takes extra effort to basically reduce insurance risk. So, and within that, there's something for every department. So there's a whole section for the police department to be able to do. There's a whole section for facilities to do. There's another section for the DPW to do. There's a section for school board. A lot of the stuff around the school board, you know, as you can see, the maximum points the school board could get is 7, or percentage is 7% of the total credit. But most of the school board stuff is all around training, which in some cases is just taking a webinar and, you know, watching it for 45 minutes and, you know, reporting back that you did it. You give which one it is, and you just report that back in. So every one of you can do that. Tina did it religiously for us. But, you know, again, it's everybody doing it is what gets you the ability to get up to the 7%. You know, trainings as far as some of the things that you quite honestly probably don't even know, but you go to your school board annual thing. There are trainings that are at that probably could be justified as credits towards this too. You know, especially if they're doing something on equity or sexual harassment or bullying or something like that. If you bring back the documents for those special things and we send them back into the insurance company, they will review them and say, yes, you can get credit for that. So, you know, if you kind of look down this thing, a lot of this really is all around keeping the school board as current on ways to reduce insurance risk. And insurance risk is not just somebody falling and cutting and getting cut type thing. It is, you know, not having a sexual harassment suit and a number of other things. So, I really, and one of the really nice things is Babs over at the Highway Department, who's been running this for the town for years, and we've done extremely well with what she's done, will give you any kind of information. You know, you can call into her and say, okay, you know, I'm not sure about such and such, and she'll do the research and get it back to you. She's been absolutely excellent. I think her and Tina have become best friends over the time because, you know, she just basically kept, you know, going to her and saying, okay, what about this and this? So, again, you can see it's only a one-page thing. There's not a lot of items you have to do. The webinars are probably the easiest way to grab 2 points or 2 percentage points. And then there are just other things that happen, like I said, during the year. And you know, even member-directed trainings and stuff that you can do where, you know, if you're going to bring in an expert, you know, that basically is maybe on, you know, mental health awareness, and number of people take it, you get X amount of points for each one, that depending on how many hours the study was, that type of thing. So I would just hope that somebody or all of you would participate in this because, again, last year, if I'm not mistaken, the town got back close to $50,000 because of what everybody did in all of the departments. And, you know, I really don't want us to be the ones that are, you know, kind of lagging behind, if you will. I think we've done a good job.
It's not pressure or
Yeah,
anything.
no, I think we've done a good job. We've come a long way from what we used to do, and even in facilities, we pretty much, we try to max out in many of those as we possibly can. So, you know, Tony and Carl are working hard to make sure we get as many points and credits as we can get there as well. So, so I think that's the only point on this. And again, with Tina gone, it's got to be like the baton's being turned over here to the rest of you.
Right. That's one big baton. I know I keep saying that, but that is one big baton. So, Mr. Pearson.
Sorry to speak again. So I went in and registered today. I knew we had this on the meeting. I knew it was on the agenda, so I registered with MIIA. And the only thing I wanted to ask you, Bill, is that I did search for courses, and I did some of this work here, and it looks like it's a slightly different program.
It changes year to year.
Yeah, so the names in this document you've given us are not exact to the program that I saw. So I just want to make sure I do the right thing whenever I go in, you know? So I did find a course on, you know, cultural diversity. I did find a couple other ones, but the names weren't exact. And so before I did anything, because I was going to try to do one today and say, hey, I did one. We can do this, guys. I was going to try to come in and motivate, right? That's where I was kind of going, right? But then I was kind of afraid that I would do it and it wouldn't get us somewhere. So
that's where I would say if there's any question, I'm not the expert on what is out there, but if there's any question, if you call over to the Highway Department, and Babs will basically walk you right through it.
Great.
And make sure that you're in the right place and that you're doing the right thing. So.
Yep.
So just so I kind of get a good understanding of that is, to maximize the credit, we each should take a different course.
Yes.
So that's where, how do we keep track of that, or does Babs?
She does report
She
out
keeps track of
on a
that.
monthly basis.
Okay.
So once you guys, if it ends up being like, well, 5 of you end up doing it, she'd actually include you on the emails and be sending it out to you, so you'd see what somebody else has done or whatever.
All right.
But yeah.
Because that would be disappointing. You're like, yes, and you're like, oh.
We all did the same course.
I could see that happening.
It did look, it looked very straightforward webinar. Some were, there were larger ones with higher percentages that were like 2 hours, and then there were some with the smaller percentages that were less.
Right.
So it's very reachable. That's what I saw today.
Thank you.
And it's not, even though it's a school board, as an example, the Title IX training, I actually did. So that's where those points came from. So if there's things that are actually
And
in
so
our
did all
areas.
of our principals and
That's
assistant
right.
principals as
Yeah.
well.
So if there's areas that we fall into, we'll grab those as well
Okay.
and try to get the credits for them. So,
I've done a number of them on school safety. Those all count.
yeah. As you can see, one's under policy. If you implement certain policies that you may not have had, or you update them,
Right.
a simple update
Yep.
can get you, points as well.
Any
I'd be-
questions or any other comment? Go ahead.
I would just be curious, now I have to look into the professional gossiping. That's actually one of theirs. It says professional conduct / gossiping, so I need to now know what that means. So I'm looking into that.
Are you calling dibs on that one?
I want to know what professional gossiping really is, so.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I do think as a committee, we should all be trying to pursue some of this.
100%.
Right.
Makes a lot
So,
of sense.
thank you. And Babs, you'll be meeting a lot more people, I think, if you're watching.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Mr. Eugen, for that report. Next on the agenda is something we also deferred from our last meeting, which was the appointment of a liaison to the Recreation Department. I don't know if anybody's done any investigation to that, or if there is interest in pursuing that role. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Burdos, sorry.
I will not take credit. Janet can take credit. She investigated for you. And it's once a month as far as the commitment for meetings. And the role would be just if there's anything to report back to the school committee as a whole, that person would do that. It's the second Monday of the month. It's over in the booth office at 7:30 p.m. And it could be to where there's not anything, seems like that might be on an agenda where it didn't have to be every single month. If you couldn't make every month, that might be okay too.
I actually did a little reconnaissance myself, and I found out that Zoom is also appropriate with COVID and everything like that, so you can join via Zoom. I'm actually very interested.
So I was
feel-
going to ask you, because you had done the reconnaissance on it,
Yes.
does that indicate an
Yes.
interest on your part?
Yes, I
to
would be
participate?
Did
very.
you just say you're very interested?
Yes.
I would move we appoint Sarah as the representative to the Recreation Department.
You don't want to fight me for it?
May I get any questions or comments? And we have a second. So all in favor of Sarah becoming our liaison to the Recreation Department? So it's a vote of 4-0-0. Sarah, you have our eternal gratitude.
I'm really excited. Why is this
Absolutely.
It's a very important role, and I think, as we have heard, Beverly enjoyed it a lot when she was the representative. I know I think Tina just had it for that very short period of time, and again, because of Tina's involvement in Foxborough in general, she found it an enjoyable activity. So we certainly appreciate you volunteering to be the liaison.
Well, thank you. I
Thank
look
you.
forward to it.
Thank you. Next, our final agenda item, other matters.
Man, look at you. Good timing, too. Wow.
Before I have an other matter that I'd like to start with, if that's okay with everybody. I just want to acknowledge Chiara Pacini. This is her last meeting as our student representative. She has been a constant of insight into what's going on at the student level. Always a positive report back out as far as, you know, her outlook on what's going on and how things are being progressing both pre-COVID and during the past year or so. So thank you so much from me, and you know, I certainly want everyone else to you know, acknowledge you as well. But thank you so much. We really do appreciate your participation. Again, I've known you a little bit longer, and I just always appreciate being, you know, you're such a bright person and such a bright presence. So thank you very much. So that was me, sorry. Dr. Burdos, of course.
So we're so lucky to have student representatives on our school committee, because the voice that they bring to the table is just really important to be able to hear their perspective. And Kiara's done such a fabulous job of that. And then she follows up outside of the meetings. When I think back to the student council presentation and connecting back from the high school and with the middle school and following up, and then the questions that she's asked. So thank you for being engaged, for bringing your voice and others to the table, and the things that you've shared, because the questions that you've asked have been really thoughtful questions, and they're ones that we can bring back to the schools to be able to follow up on as well. So really excited for you next year. I don't know if you wanted to remind everyone what your plans were for next year.
Sure. I'll be going to Plymouth State University, New Hampshire to study mental health psychology with a minor in adventure education.
Wow.
Congratulations,
excited
for
that's
you.
exciting.
And I want to thank you guys for letting me sit in these past 2 years. I've learned so much, and you guys are a fabulous group of people to look up to. And you guys have really opened my eyes to how much goes into our education and what you guys do for all of the students. So a big thank you to all of you guys and everything that you do for us and inspiring us to be the best students we can be, and the best people we can be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kiara. Yay.
Well said, well said.
Thank you. Any other matters, Dr. Burdos?
So just one other one. As you're probably aware, for the last 9 years, other than last year, we've launched the K-12 Culture and Climate Survey through K-12 Insight. It's a survey that is sent to all Foxborough families of our students. It is sent to all of our teachers and educational assistants and anyone that's in the teaching that's connected to the classroom with teaching and learning. And then our students at the Ahern and the high school take that survey as well. And it's really important. It's anonymous, but it's really important information for us. And we bring it back and we present it here at the school committee. Dr. Mello and I do. And we look at that data from a culture and climate standpoint because it looks at social, emotional, and mental health. It looks at school safety. It looks at facilities. It looks at parent engagement. It looks at teaching and learning and supports that are there for students. Do they have someone that they can reach out to and talk to, aside from all of the academic piece? So it's really encompassing. We've changed it a little bit this year, not completely, because it's really important for us to have that longitudinal data to be able to compare. But at the same time, we know that when that comes back, the lens that we'll be viewing through, we have to keep in mind that it has been during a COVID pandemic year. But at the same time, knowing that data is still really critically valuable to us, and it helps us think about goals for the future at the school level as well as a district level. So that was being launched this week for parents. I think it went out at 4 o'clock today. And it will be launched with students and staff next week with staff and with students, because it will trickle out because we have MCAS testing that's going on in order to get our 5th graders and above. It'll happen at different times during the rest of the school year. And with that, we won't get the data back until well into the summer because we're launching it much later than we would have. But we felt it was important to wait and let all students be back in school full time to have more of the year completed, particularly based on the uniqueness of this year. So just the message is, it's out there. We really value that data. So parents, you can take it more than once depending on where your student is, if you have an elementary student, because we know that your experience could be different if it were middle school or high school or elementary.
Thank you. Dr. Mello.
I just wanted to share that this year at the middle school, we incorporated our Project Lead the Way curriculum into our 6th grade students. We had previously offered it for 7th and 8th graders, so it was an expansion this year. And their program is design and modeling, which we did have for a small cohort of students before, but now every 6th grader participates. And one of their final projects, which is very civic-oriented, is to create, and I want to say it correctly, an ankle-foot orthosis. So it's actually like an orthotic, almost like a boot for somebody who had some sort of medical issue. And students actually create a mock-up of their design, and they build it. And Ms. Isaacson submitted several students into the review process from the STEM professionals at the Mass STEM Hub. And we did have a winner from the Ahern Middle School, and it was Ruby Blair, and she came in 2nd place across the Commonwealth. So I just wanted to note that her design will be on display in the glass case at the Ahern Middle School, should you happen to be there. And I just want to congratulate her on some of the unique features that she included. It really showed a lot of innovation. So I love knowing that our students, even our younger students, are going to be impacting change and have innovative ideas for us. So I just wanted to give her a little shout out because we're very excited after just our first year. We're already seeing the great things our students can do.
That's wonderful.
Great.
That's
Yes,
exciting. Good
great.
for her.
Yes, very proud of her.
Good for everybody that supported her. with that.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that. Anything else? Mr. Yukna?
Nope. I don't have anything.
Michelle? Richard?
I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah?
No, thank you.
Well, then I think with nothing else, I want to, before we close, I just want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. Again, any submissions to the community inbox will be a part of our meeting, which is now scheduled for June 8th. Did I do that right? You think? Yeah? Do I have the dates wrong?
Tuesday.
No,
Yep.
June 2nd.
Second.
June 2nd, sorry. No, June 1st.
it's not June
June
2nd.
1st.
I have June 1st, yeah.
Yeah, June 1st.
Final answer?
First, you have a winner.
It is June 1st, I know, because May 31st is Memorial Day. So, again, thank you guys for joining us. And please, anything that you'd like to submit to the school committee, use the community inbox. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Sarah
Seconded.
and Michelle, thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
400. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful evening. Thank you very much.